Shalom, family.
Shalom.
Yes, guys, welcome to the channel. If you click this channel, you are interested in Africa, okay? So, we've been here for 4 years, traveling around East Southern Africa. And in this video, we're going to tell you how we came from being tourists to residents. So, stay tuned to the end, and we're going to give you our story about becoming a resident here in Southern Africa.
Yes, in 2020, we moved across the world without visiting first, and we're glad we did it. We wouldn't have it any other way because the reality is you need to move and make a strategic move, make a long term move without overthinking, overanalyzing. The only way to be successful in Africa and just in life, even if you're an entrepreneur, you already know this, is to make a large move, do it with all your might, do it with all your power, and to not give up on doing that and making that decision.
Exactly. So, when you move, you have to figure things out. And I'm glad that all through these past 4 years we figured everything out because when we first got to East Africa, Tanzania, we were going country to country. We were visiting countries such as Zambia, where else? Zanzibar, um, Kenya, for a short time. But once we realized, like, man, we have to figure some things out. We got to do our research to get this residency long term. We have to figure out how, where we need to be, where it's going to be okay for our kids to be homeschooled, where it's going to
True.
be okay to run a digital marketing business.
True.
Um, so these are the things that you really need to think about when you want to really transfer from that tourist to residency.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Because another good point is the anti corruption. So that was what we were looking for when we transitioned from, hey, tourist mindset to residence mindset. And
Mhm.
it's so strategic and like snake like that you may not realize it. But if you start to see the red flags and the patterns, such as bureaucracy, institutions not keeping their word, or things being this way for one person, then this way for another, and then it's double, triple, quadruple the price, you need to understand that there are economies that you can move to in Africa that do not do business like that and do not move like that. These countries and these economies are going to be the visa free countries for Americans, or economies like Ghana, like South Africa, that have such high standards on the global stage that they really care about their reputation. These are the things that we start
Mhm.
to look for 3 to 4 years in being in Africa and living in Tanzania and being like, okay, this isn't really going how it should flow. Let's start to look and see what countries are on the least corrupt index. And it's a fabulous index. It changes frequently with time, but you can be guaranteed that your stay in one of these types of countries is going to be smooth, it's going to be peaceful, it's going to have ease, and the business and systems are just going to work. For example, when we got our residence permit here, we got it within 60 days, two
Exactly.
months of being here. And it can be renewed up to 4 years for how much?
For free, for free,
For
free.
free.
So these are the things that you really got to think about because, like, coming from a corrupt country where it was like, man, we were going through a lot and thinking that this is Africa, this is how Africa is. But once we
Sure.
realized, like, man, no, this
That's just
can't
that
be.
country.
This really can't be. So look out for the countries that really care about the country. And I know some people might say, "Oh, this country is expensive," but what's really expensive? Like coming from America, like you probably like paying $3,000 for a 2 bed, 3 bedroom house, and you know your grocery list is pretty much the same price as your rent. So it's just like, man, you really gotta think about what is expensive when you come here to Africa, and you can't be afraid to live a luxurious life because, like, this life that we live in, this is our dream life, and it's just so beautiful to
Yeah.
realize like where we came from in America and where we are now, 4 years going on 5 years later, and how our children is loving it, just growing up digital children,
Digital
digital
nomad
nomad
children.
children,
Digital nomad.
digital children, digital nomad children, and how they're just enjoying life and just comfortable. Pretty much every country that we go to, they know how to move as children. just as we know how to move as adult and parents. So it's just a thing. It's just a beautiful thing to see and realize that hey, this is possible.
Yeah, they're little travel children. They have their own goals. They'll come to us and say, "Hey, I want to go to Namibia. Hey, can we visit Ethiopia?" These are things like in Ohio they would have
Mm-hmm.
never even thought. But when we were in Ohio, I remember we were on a consultation call and someone was asking us like, "How do you get your children prepared for a big move like that?" And what we did, we hyped up Africa so much, like we do on
Mm-hmm.
this channel. Like this is how we are in real life. We hyped up Africa so much whether we were going to be in Tanzania, Ghana, South Africa, it didn't matter. We hyped up what the experience was going to be like so much so that when they left, they were like, this is like heaven on earth. This is the closest I can get to heaven on earth. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's peaceful, it's stable, it's beautiful. You have a lower cost of living, and as children, they can just be free. They don't have to deal with racism. They don't have to deal with the LGBT fools. They don't have to deal with a predator snatching them in the bathroom. These are things that they don't have to worry about. They can just play. They can swim. They can do their homeschool lessons.
They
They
can
can
just be
learn
children.
their curriculum. They
Yeah.
have free time and the space to be flexible. Children in America don't have that experience as much. And so if you're someone that has children, like let me put it in perspective. Our oldest son was about 9 when we left, 8 or 9. Jaslyn, she was 6. Josiah was 3 when we left. Okay. So those were the ages of our children when we left. And so we got them so hyped up at those young ages that when they left, they're like, wow, this is amazing. This is my dream life. I never want to leave. And they would always say that. We would be like, hey, we would joke with them. We would be like, hey, do you want to go back to Ohio? They would just look at us
Mm-hmm.
like this
Mm-mm.
with a straight face. They didn't think it was funny.
Yeah.
They got too serious. Like if I go down there right now, maybe we'll do that video one day. That'd be hilarious, just so we can get their raw reaction. Okay, you will see their reactions because their mindset. We had raised them up so that they would know the same way we talk to you guys about the benefits
Mm-hmm.
of being in Africa and the cons, the dreadfulness of being in Western society. We were very realistic and raw with what that is for Westerners, and they know that from a young age.
Exactly. So if you have children, this is very important to realize like, hey, these countries that really will accept what you do on a certain level of online presence and help you get the residency way smoother. You really have to take account of that, especially for your children, because I'm glad that we are in the country that we are in because they really understand what we do, and we can just continue doing it and live a peaceful, free life.
Yeah, that's key because if you go to a country that doesn't understand your industry, and us as Americans, this is one of the things that's our weakness. We don't
Mhm.
understand, how can I put it? Not how ancient some countries are. America is like 20 years, maybe even 30 years in the future from some African countries, India, some of these
I would.
countries that are just now starting to develop. America is very much in the future in terms of business operations, okay? In terms of food processing, in terms of all of these things that we typically see as cons depending on what it is. But when it comes down to ethically running a business, having your checks and balances in order, that is one of the positives that you have in
Mhm.
America when you can incorporate a business online without leaving your couch. Now, you come to Africa and think that you can do that and it's going to be seamless without an issue. You will run into trouble and you will run into problems because you're expecting the system to operate like that when it doesn't. But that isn't all African countries. A lot of countries in Southern Africa have the proper systems in place. Ghana has the proper systems in place. What we're seeing of Kenya and what we know about our partners in Kenya has the proper systems in place and is starting to get them in place. So we will see more African countries try and adopt some of these good things that Western society has. Western society doesn't have a whole lot of good things, but the ability and ease to do business is top tier when you're an investor. It just is.
I hope you guys enjoyed this information. We gave you our raw thoughts. So I hope you guys got something tangible out this video to understand. Hey, go to a country that is least corrupt. free for Americans, and your time of getting residency will probably be way smoother. Make sure you like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Check the links in the description.
Yeah.
And we will talk to you in the next video.
Shalom.
Shalom.